The last minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to waive reading of the minutes.
So all the minutes are posted on the website, if you want to go read them. If you have any questions about them, you can check there. There's a motion to waive the reading of the minutes from the previous POA meeting. Is there a second? Second. So all in favor? All opposed? Anybody opposed?
No opposed.
All right, so that will pass. Pass up the reading in a minute, so we'll go straight into treasurer's report with Brandon.
Thank you.
Okay, so for last year, we had a total income of $1,130.35. Of that $96,000 that we brought in income, $27,637 that was back dues that we collected, so that's money owed. Now, for the year, our total expenses were $93,984.24. So we're sitting at positive $2,146. So we still didn't lose money, but we were right there. Given there were some extra expenses that aren't on normal expectations, like the roof had holes bigger than quarters in it. The fact that the actual metal hadn't pulled off was amazing. We had to replace that. So there's some things that were out of normal expenses that had to be done this year. Now for the roads, we brought in $13,797 for the year for 2024, and we spent $28,620.81. So we did obviously do more work on the roads than the money we got in dues. Given on those numbers, though, still, as of this morning, we do have $135,203.88 in the general fund. So, as you can see, we still have enough money to pay all the bills this year and have all of our income for this year to cover. Now, in the road fund, we have $16,393.11. So even as you heard, we spent, $15,000 more in road than we brought in. There's still $16,000 in the road fund account. And then up to the date for this year, we've already brought in $1,200 in income. Given I should have by March 1st all of 2025 dues posted everyone's account, so that we can start bringing in 2025 dues in.
It should be sending to you.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
All in favor? And all opposed? Anybody abstain? All right, so treasurer's report passes posted. Pools. So some of the things we've been talking about on the pools this year, we are not under the County Board of Health anymore for rules for the pool. So having an attendant there. We're going to try. We've checked the insurance. We're okay with the insurance as long as it's posted that we're not responsible for injuries, accidents, things like that. We're going to try to set up a key pad entry into the pool. The hours will be the same, so we cannot swim after dark because we don't have the lighting to do so. I mean, if you want to go down there earlier in the day from sun up to sundown, you're more than welcome to. We'll be more than welcome to go use the pool this year. I will need some volunteers though, so pool volunteers, instead of having to sit down there all day long, I just need somebody to go through and spot check and do chemical checks. We can show you how to do it, and I'll make a more simpler form so we can actually log that information and have record of it, but we've got to keep the water safe for people to be into. All the same rules will apply. No alcoholic beverages. If you have small kids, grandkids, things like that come and swim and they need a life jacket, please buy a life jacket for the pool if you take them out in the lake as well. I had a deal last year where I didn't know. Kid got in the pool with a life jacket on. No big deal. They're safe. It's all good. But it turned the water quick. So either scrub it off with soap and water or get a pool life jacket for that kid if you would please. Once the water gets out of control, it's hard to bring it back. I found that out myself, because I didn't know what I was doing last year, so. Yeah, we'll do better this year. And then also we put, heaters in the bathrooms, and the water closet, so, bathrooms have been able to stay open all year. We didn't have any water break issues, so far, and, everything's working good on that, so that's what we've got on pools for this meeting. We'll go into roads with Jack.
Get notes up here. Don't have a whole lot since we've done quite a bit of work earlier in the year. We got a couple little areas we need some work on. I'm gonna be renting a piece of equipment. I was gonna do it last week, but I didn't wanna be out there on 14-degree days trying to run a grader or something without a cab on it. So anyway, it's gonna be probably coming up in February. We get this little rain showers out of the way coming up, and I'll get started. I got a couple of roads I wanna hit, and probably won't be bringing any gravel on this road since we got it down. I need to keep some back in case something really bad happens, but our rim rock was really bad, and yeah, it's washed a little bit since the rains, but I'd say 80 or 90% of it stayed up on the hill, and then down by the water plant needs a little work. I talked to Mike down at District 3. First time I got to talk to him, I've tried to stop and meet with him, and all we did was cross paths. And so I finally called him, and he called me back immediately. Seemed like a pretty nice guy. I've never met him face to face, but just talking to him on the phone. I told him that, you know, I'd like to get some stuff done on Forest, things that they do. And he was out here the next day, and they put down some crusher run or whatever they did on it and smoothed it out so there's not a big old hole right there. And it's just the first step, maybe rebuilding our relationship with the county and get them out here. And they've been out 2 or 3 times and hit some spots. Now they're only going to do the county roads, and if they go off on another road, that's just out of their goodness of their heart. Because he said first time he goes out and does something, there's going to be somebody complaining, well, you did so-and-so's road. So they try not to get into that. And if they do, good for you. And if you can get it done, good for you. But I'm trying to work on it, and so's these other guys. And like I said, if you have a problem with your road, I've had a lot of guys call, and ladies too, just let me know. I'll try to address it, and we'll touch up what we got. And then I'm gonna block off, I didn't tell earlier, but right here by these dumpsters, we got people driving through. It's not a drive-through. We're gonna put T-posts up, put barriers across between this building and the carport there. So we don't make ruts through there when we're trying to mow.
I've got 5 brand new
Do you?
T-posts.
Okay. This ground just thawed that, we'll do it. And I don't have anything else.
We'll move on to Mike Leal.
Architectural control with Mike.
All right, we talked in the last meeting about some people that we want to go after. They're delinquent on their dues, and I was at a loss on which ones to go after, really, besides ones that were the most high. And with those ones, a lot of those are people that have either passed away, or we've got to do a lot of work with the title just to make sure that we're going after the right person. We don't file a case we don't need to. So I'm still kind of working with that to make sure that doesn't happen. The only other thing that I have, we had talked at the last board meeting, and between the 5 of us, there was a lot of different things that we felt like the community might want to address that might be quote-unquote architectural issues, whether it being a bunch of trash on your lot, or somebody that's got cars abandoned, or they built something with used materials, or just, but so we weren't really sure what would be the most important things to you guys to go after first, if we were gonna go after something, and just kind of wanted to not necessarily take a vote, but maybe a poll, just kind of see what was on your all's radar, like what's the most concerning thing to you? Is it the lots that have garbage all over them, or is it the ones that have been building something that brought in something like a shed to live in, or whatever it is, or they've got 5 cars that have been sitting there. And so we, after talking, it was kind of like, well, let's just see what the board, or what the community has to say, if there's anything that somebody, or what the majority is, with you guys. So, I don't know if you guys think that like a think the things I had written down were like things that would be like building violations, like, maybe it's something like they haven't been upkeeping, when their place is completely dilapidated, or, that'd be one thing, like the other one was abandoned cars, and the other one was trash and excess building materials stored, or if there's any other things that you guys are think are more of a concern than that.
I would say trash.
I think to follow
I'd say
proper
trash,
meeting
too.
procedures, we have to get through the list and then open it up to that.
Yeah, we'll open it up.
Okay, I guess, yeah, we can bring it up to that, I just had it written down to go over, that's the only other thing, so I guess we'll revisit that with new business in a minute.
We finish through the agenda and then we can open up to.
Okay, yeah, my bad, sorry, new guy.
All right, we'll go to security with Casey.
Not a whole lot new so far, security, but our security team does want to make a public announcement, and I'll be also doing this on Facebook and elsewhere. With recent events, if y'all have to call 911, please try to keep it in the back of your head that your second call needs to be to security. We're going to elaborate on that further. But like I said, if something happens, EMS or whatever is a good distance out, let's call our security team, and that way we can get somebody on site within a couple minutes. I'd like to have a discussion or at some time looking at, I will be researching the price of if a Lifelight membership can be included with our harbor dues at a reduced rate, and what that might be, and propose that to the membership if that might be something we would be interested in. And I would also like a discussion on getting at least one permanent, maybe a second mobile AED machine for security to have. At the very least, have one central AED machine at the little centralized hut here for anybody, and the proper training on that. They range from $500 to $2,000, and they average from 12 to 18. Just think that'd be a smart thing to have here in the harbor with how far EMS is out. And one sec.
And that would actually be something the membership would have to vote on, so that won't be done without y'all's
Membership.
approval first.
Go ahead.
You may be able to get one of the local EMS agencies to donate one.
Some of the ones I've seen they're in like a break glass.
Yeah, yeah, well, I
But
mean,
you pull
we
the
would have-
door and it calls fire automatically.
Well, we would have to put something like that in, but the machine itself, we have 3 local EMS agencies, which Muskogee doesn't necessarily serve this area, but they have, employees who live here and former employees who live here, so they may be willing. I know when we were on West Teen Killer Fire Department, they supplied us with one.
Okay.
And so you could try all 3 of the local agencies,
That's
and
good
one of
stuff.
them may be
Yeah, one of
willing to
their own
donate.
Good
And-
deal. That's good.
And that, yeah, we'll be, I hadn't thought of tapping any resources like that, or like I said, Cherokee Nation, so thank you, I'll be looking into those as well. The other thing is, on security, we just talked about this, it's kind of in its infancy. We're gonna talk about trying to put together another group. We know we have a lot of first responders in the neighborhood that go along with that second call after 911. Call Don security team, like, hey, he'll have the access to the volunteers that have specialized training within the neighborhood that are willing to jump on board with this, and he'll be reaching out to them. Like I said, if we can get some first responder, light trauma as soon as possible, I think that'd just be a great addition for the neighborhood. That's all I have.
Okay, so, security down, we need to look into old business. Things on the agenda for old business is to discuss whether to require members using the community center for public events to check for dues paid for a member to attend. In the past, you know, like you have a sponsor basically of who rents the community, who's responsible for the community center. If it's a community-wide event, we haven't been charging the money up front. It's known to the sponsor that it will be billed to them if it's not cleaned up after the event is over. But do you want to require the sponsor of a public event to check people at the door to see if their dues are paid to be able to attend? That's gonna be when, we don't have a quorum, do
We
we?
don't have a
We don't have a
So we
quorum.
can't-
I do wanna say something about that though, even if we're not gonna vote on that or anything. So that means that like, if the tables look like this and you use the place, please put them back like this, so that we don't have to do it every time that we come in here too. But, that's all I got. But the place looks pretty clean other than looking that. I don't see any
Yeah, they've done
mice
pretty
or
well.
anything like that.
So, what we'll do is we'll push that question off till we do have a quorum, we can actually vote on it. You know, it's something that's come up, so it's important to people in the neighborhood, and it should be your decision, how that's handled.
Do we have any room for like argument or discussion on that?
I would save it for,
Okay.
the next,
Okay.
one, you know, when we can actually
Good to
vote on it. And then, the first responders discussion, Casey kind of touched on. I don't know if everybody knows, we did have an accident in the neighborhood that cost somebody their life. And we all know EMS is slow to respond out here. I mean, they've got a long way to go to get here, and it's not their fault, but they get here as quick as they can. So we're trying to put something together where, you know, Don is willing to give out, he's got business cards if you don't have his number. But our thinking is, your first call needs to be police, fire, ambulance, whatever you need. Your second call Don or Butch, because they're here. And what we're gonna try to do is get a group of people that they can have a group text and say, hey, we need help over here. And if you're here, you can come and help. It's kind of like a volunteer fire department. I don't, you know, I wasn't here when the accident happened. I don't know if there was anything they could have done, but there could have been. So let's take that doubt out of it and, you know, try to have some response immediately that, you know, we may be able to do some good, help some people out. So we also talked about, you know, having a first aid CPR, first responder type class put on down here for anybody that wants to come to it. If you want to get involved with that, you know, we can get the training that you know, you might be able to help.
And if anyone
Keep
knows who
yourself
we
out of
might
trouble.
be able to call to get that put on,
Right.
please let us know.
Red Cross for sure, yeah. And maybe even some of the local EMS volunteer fire departments are willing to come out here and you know, help out. So.
Are you wanting us to sign up with you guys or to sign up with?
Well,
We haven't even got
yeah,
there.
when we get there, what we'll do is we'll put together the people that are gonna do it, and then we'll give that to Don and Butch. So,
Like on the team?
yeah,
Yeah, by all means, if you're willing to do that, like after the meeting tonight, give us your name and contact so we can put it down to at least put it now. But then,
right. Start that, you know, start that chat group that, you know, hey, if they've got a problem, you know, if you're here and you can help, great. If you're not, you know, it is what it is, but hopefully we can get some response to it. And then, you know, we talked about the first aid CPR training. Oh, yeah, and then another thing too is we've noticed here lately that we've seen the ambulance driving around looking for places. It might be a good idea to mark your address, make sure your address is visible on the outside of your property, out by the road on a stake, you know, numbers on your house, something like that. But I mean, they were in here looking for somebody that was having heart trouble, and they're driving around looking for them. They can't help them if they're not, you know, they don't know where to go. So we also need to start looking to it, and it's been talked about before. Road, you know, some of the roads aren't marked. We need to get those marked. This has just been kind of an eye opener that, you know, recently happened, that we got to get on the ball and get this stuff so everybody's safe out here. So we'll move on to new business.
You need to standardize the numbers so they're all look alike. Like any other
That would be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah.
So if the streets are all the same, and the numbers, everybody get the same number, the same height
And
on the house, that way
Because there's
you automatically see it.
I would even be willing to go as far as to say if somebody needs help doing that, I'm willing to help. But you know, it's gonna help everybody in the neighborhood, at least get help to them as quick as we possibly can, so. And then, new business, we wanna start a committee on the bylaws and restrictions. The way they're written, they're not, I mean, it's like some of the bylaws, you'll go along and read a sentence and then it just drops off into nothing. And they're filed with the county. I mean, those are rules for the neighborhood and the things that we're supposed to follow. So I'll be looking for, what I wanna do is 4 volunteers to be on a committee to look at rewriting the bylaws and the restrictions, and then have 2 separate people that are willing to proofread. Go through and make sure, you know, everything's changed. Now, if we do changes on the bylaws, it gets down to, if you change the word "the" to the word "to" in a sentence in the bylaws,
changes.
y'all have to vote on it. But it'll clear up some of the, especially with, like, the restrictions aren't, I mean, you'll still have to vote on it, but the way the restrictions are written, you have what was previously there and what is now there, and we've had people argue, but the restriction says I can do this. No, it was changed down here. But it doesn't appear, as you're reading through there, that it was changed until after you read it, and then it comes down here and it says was changed to, and it's like, well, shoot, I just read this whole paragraph and I didn't need to. It's not there anymore. So we just want to try to clean all that up, and if we can get some volunteers to go in there and look at that stuff, we appreciate it.
When you're talking about that, are you talking about just that, like getting it where it's written cleanly, or are we talking about actually making changes to the bylaws as well?
Well, for the most changes to the bylaws would take a motion from someone, a member, and a vote to put it on there, and then to change the bylaw, you would actually have to have an election.
Yeah, so this is just
From my
to clean it up.
just to clarify, from my understanding, even with the committee, say if you take the very first paragraph of the bylaws and you're changing the word "the" to "to," technically that still has to be brought in, and you can still present it and go, hey, we want to change this. You still have to motion it in front of the members in one meeting.
Right.
And then set an actual election date to then vote to permanently change that. So even
So
in
it
that,
takes at least 2 meetings.
to change anything, correct?
To change it, yes.
Now,
Now, can you remove the old paragraph? Is that what you guys are looking to
Now,
do?
I think that's different, and we may have to call on that. Like the restrictions that do say that, where it says the originally read, and then it says amended read. I don't think there's anything against us just having a document of restrictions where we ourselves take out the original read, because those are now invalid. The only thing that matters is what the amended to read is.
Sure.
So there's nothing that has to be voted on for us to make a document that says current.
And the restriction could be literally just be striking the wording in the top paragraph that used to be, but now it's changed to, so people know they don't read it, and they don't think they can do this because it used to be this way, but it changed to this, and it says right here, because it's not stricken.
So you're just wanting to clean that up
Clean
and
that up,
eliminate
yes.
that sort of thing?
Absolutely. And, got 4 more, so still need, okay, so we're still under a quorum. And then, like I said,
By 4 votes, I think.
yeah, we did,
We need 64, right? We need 55.
Put it forward. If you just came in and haven't checked in, please come over and check in with me real quick. Come check in. I know who he is. He's come in. Yes.
Official, James.
Sign my name, I trust.
No, sir.
and then the last thing on the agenda was the,
How hard it is to.
most important issues you guys feel like you want us to start looking at as far as the architectural control stuff, whether it's, trashy yards, abandoned vehicles,
All the above.
yeah.
I see it, but I see a line, so if I ain't good.
With that, the floor is open for any discussion you guys would like to have. We are through with our part of it, and,
Want to talk about the water department?
yeah, I didn't, you guys up and down, you willing to?
Okay.
Okay, so, we all know the water issue going on. Becky, as well as, Liz Pagano and Kathy Harry have been kind of heading up a Facebook page and keeping track of all the information that's going on there. Becky's gonna talk just, briefly about where that's at right now and the important dates coming up, and then we'll move on from
Thank you.
So I'm definitely not the administrator of that page or anything. I think they tried to get a hold of Kathy and Liz, and neither one responded. Just because I'm a little bit more familiar, I guess, maybe on that page. If you're not familiar with it, it's, I believe, 10 Killer Waterworks, Inc., customer base. I'm not gonna say customer base or something like that. But it's definitely something that you wanna go in and look at, because every single thing that's been updated, Kathy is like subscribed, I've subscribed. Anytime somebody submits something to OCC, which is Oklahoma Corporate Commission, is that correct?
Oklahoma Corporation Commission.
It gives me an email that says, something's been added to the docket. They just recently approved their confidentiality agreement that they filed. They want absolutely nothing to be available to the public, like none of their finances, none of their business plans, where their location's even at, nothing, and they approved it. Even though there has been several complaints sent to them, I believe, and I would not quote this, but there is a specific email that you want to send any kind of complaints to, and it will be admitted to the docket, and it has to be looked at by the Attorney General, who is supposed to be representing us in this. It originally started out, if I'm understanding all this, the way my husband put a spreadsheet. There is a spreadsheet out there. It shows when we first submitted their application for the increase. It was approximately 85% increase over a I think it's 3 year.
That was a
phase.
3-year period, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody wants to help me out, go for it. And then after several complaints were sent in, explaining, like they want to double the tank from the original size that we have right now, because they said it was a catastrophe, it's going to fall over, crumble. And then they said that they've already approved it, they've already got it on order, and it was double the capacity. Well, my understanding is we don't really have a quantity issue, we have a quality issue. So my husband also went out and looked, and it was like they wanted $600,000+ for this tank that we were going to be paying for with this 85% increase. And it was actually, you can give one around $200,000. So we put a complaint in on that as an email. And these are all public, so everything that has been sent in to them, you can go out there. It's PUD 2024 I think it's 4 or 5058 is the case. And everything that has been submitted, emails, letters, they sent in the petition that everybody signed as well. And then they came back and they changed it because of all the complaints. And now they've taken the new tower out and has put it on hold, which if it was, such a bad thing, then why are we on hold?
Right, they sat here and told you guys in front of everybody that tower was about ready to collapse, and if it collapsed, we wouldn't have any water. So that should be a dire need, and now they've pulled it off the
Is there any way of investigating who they got their quote from and who owns that company?
Not with that confidentiality.
Yeah,
They're buying
won't put
from
it out.
themselves.
No,
right.
we would.
And that was one of the things that we did ask in our email. It was where did they get their 3 bids? Did they get 3 bids? They didn't offer us anything. They just said, here, we've already ordered it, and this is the amount of money, then we want you to pay for it. And so we're submitting this 85% increase, and that's what we're gonna ask for.
Right. So some of the things that I do know is so our water is Lake 10 Killer Waterworks. That's who our water company is. They contract all their work to U.S. Water. So
Yes.
Lake 10 Killer Water has no employees. It's US Water people contracted out here to do the work. It's all owned by the same place. It's like a shell company game, is what they're doing. And I would like suggest everybody keep an eye on your water bills. If you have a lot or lots that have meters on them that you're not using, make sure they're not charging you for it. I had up to a $280 past due balance, multiple phone calls, and got a disconnect letter in the mail for a meter that I don't use. And finally, after 6 months, got them to close that account and take the bill off. But it took 6 months to do, so make sure you're not paying water that you're not using, because they're trying to charge for every meter. And if you have a meter in the ground, they tried to tell me in the beginning that they were allowed to charge you minimum water, whether it's used or not. And I literally told them, okay, how about I start just running up to 1,000 gallons of water out on the ground? Well, why would you want to do that? It's kind of, not a good idea. Hey, if I'm paying for it, why can't I run it on the ground? And they were like, well, I guess do what you need to do. I'm like, really? So.
Our kids aren't even gonna buy in here because they would only come out during the summertime because they live out of state. And they don't wanna have to pay water for 9 months out of the year that they're not gonna be here.
You should be able to start and stop that account. It'll cost you $50 every time, but it's better than.
The state OCC commission actually has it in their laws that water companies are allowed to do it the way that they currently do it, that they can
That's crazy.
they can charge you whether
Yeah,
you use it
even
or
if
not.
you shut it off,
They
when
can
you
still
turn
charge-
it back on, they back
charge
charge
you.
you for all
It-
those months.
That's actually in the
And if
OCC's rules
if
that
you
they're
don't
allowed to do it.
Pay it for a year, it goes away. Is that
Yes,
according
but
to their rules?
well, it's that if you return it on,
They can charge you
Yeah.
all those back
if
months.
it's been over a year, they cannot
Right.
Get
but, I
two
mean,
lots,
switch it out. And we're gonna, but
1 year this meter, this year that.
But they are now,
Yeah.
we do know now, as I've had people come in, and like he got a disconnect letter on that one that he wasn't using.
Yeah.
They are finally, since they switched,
Because
Because there was a bu-
disconnect.
there was a bunch of customers that just never got their bills. Once they made their billing switch in August, there's a bunch of customers that just quit getting bills. They're like, how do I pay you if I don't get a bill? And that was some that had to reach out to them like after like 3 or 4 months, like, hey, we've been trying to get a hold of you, we can't. And then they get a hold of them like, well, you owe this much money, and they're like, okay. So they are now, USW is now actually starting to disconnect accounts.
So if you don't mind, I'm just gonna real quick state that after they did get all of our complaints, they did work because they now taken the amount, and besides taking the tower off, they have taken the percentage amount down to like roughly 45% versus 85%. But they did ask also for a water meter that originally cost $300. I believe it's gonna be $1,300 now.
That is correct.
And then what you were talking about, the disconnect and the connect fee, they originally cost them, and I'm not gonna quote the amount because I'm not gonna sure on this, but it say like if it's $36, I think they're now gonna increase it to like $57 or something. And there was one other thing, I can't remember what it is at the moment, but it's going to be like a significant price as well. Whatever they say it costs them, then they're pushing the cost over to us as well. And the main, if I'm not mistaken, next big meeting, I believe it's in either April or it starts in April, where they start taking outside customer complaints. And then also, I believe the actual hearing is in May. But if you go out to that 10 Killer, it's a Facebook page, the 10 Killer Waterworks base, every single thing that has been filed is on there. It's underneath media or files. It's all under there. And then you can also go out to OCC website, look up the PUD, it's a PUD, Public Utility court case, and look at it. And like I said, it's 2024 58, and it shows everything that has been filed, emails, all of our complaints and everything. So
One thing, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, since I got a front row seat to the water company, they're through my back window. they'd come out and, you know, like you got your foundation, fix cracks in your foundation. Supposedly they came out and lifted that tower.
Did they?
It's what we were told. They've got it back level. They had to drill piers down and, so that comes from
the tower.
yeah, so I don't know, that might have been why they dropped that 600, I have no idea, but I did, we were told that
Well,
they
they were
jacked
gonna
it.
charge us $600,000 for a $200,000.
Probably.
Right. And then, I kinda put Becky on the spot on this, so don't hold her to any factual information, go look it up. I couldn't get a hold of the two people that, you know, I thought would
Thank you, Becky.
have the most information, so I put her on the spot, and I appreciate you stepping in,
Yeah.
you know, kinda
Don't
giving some
quote me on
information on that.
anything, but definitely go out to that website
But, yeah,
because everything's on it.
Yeah, hit the website.
Do we have a quorum?
Just an update, we only need 2 more people, or 2 more votes.
2 more votes for a quorum.
Okay, so
So floor's yours. Anything you guys want to discuss? Questions, comments, complaints?
Melissa,
Melissa.
Does anybody know who is shooting the coyotes and dumping them at the boat ramp?
We just heard about it.
I hadn't even heard about it.
Don?
There's like 5 of them down there.
I'm just gonna share my experience whenever I was with the Corps for the Ten Killer Lake. There are those, that's a public ramp, and there are people that, there was one guy for a summer that was killing water moccasins and just leaving them on all the boat ramps across the lake. So it could be somebody in the neighborhood, it might not be somebody in the neighborhood as well, is all I'm saying.
Is that something that the game warden would pay attention to?
I mean, I would imagine so. That's, I mean, his,
Coyotes considered a nuisance, isn't it?
Nuisance.
So-
yeah, I mean, I doubt you're gonna get anybody.
It's like, it's equivalent to killing a hog, they won't, there's nothing they'll do.
You can get somebody down here to clean it up, but yeah, I doubt so far as like any like
Fine.
investigation or anything beyond that. I don't think you'll have any luck. But yeah, that's their
Is
business.
there any way we can like put a post on Facebook, be like, hey guys, please don't do this?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're shooting them, leave them lay.
Yeah,
So
leave them where
that
they're at.
If it is somebody in the neighborhood, maybe, you know, they'll get the idea and stop.
Dragging them down
Yeah.
in the cold.
All right, anybody else got anything?
Can we make the suggestion about cleaning up the trash on the lots first, as far as like,
Absolutely.
yeah, that would be a,
Okay, so that'd be,
that's,
Trash box.
that'd be on the, what do you guys dislike more?
yes, the trash lots,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we don't have to necessarily
Like
take a
salt
vote, we
pork
can take a poll.
particularly.
Yeah, we
We
just
can
do
take a poll,
polls.
see what you guys want more, you know, of us to go after, and that would be whether it's trash, like a lot of trash on people's lots, and then, so that'd be one thing. The other thing would be like, if they got abandoned cars, and then the other thing would be stuff that's, building violations, or like, bringing in a structure that wasn't supposed to be approved, right? So,
I think that, the not approved structures would be my number 2.
okay, but what do you guys think for by show of hands, trash is the number one thing, like trashy lots?
Well, the other question there is, he's separating broken down cars from trash. He's saying those
Yeah,
are not the
exactly,
same thing.
It's all trash.
Yeah, trash. Yeah, but,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
most people aren't gonna notice the car though, because they don't
Well,
live here, you know?
I think I already know what he's gonna get to, because we've talked about it before, is if they have one single car that's broken, he's not considering that
Right.
trashy, but if there's 4, 5, 6, what,
Dozen?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's trashy.
Okay.
Spare parts, man. Come on.
They're hard to.
Hey, all my boats run. All my boats see water. All 4 of them.
All right, anybody got anything else?
So trash lots, and then the next thing would be, structures, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the trash, because I've had issues with that too.
Yeah.
Because that brings rats, which brings snakes,
Oh,
which,
sure.
you know, and dogs tear it up and drag it across the street.
That's just a property value thing.
Fire hazard,
Fire
Yeah.
hazards.
Absolutely, yeah.
we just had a fire
Right.
Yeah,
at a
at
trash
the front.
location.
And that was something that, was brought to my attention too, and I didn't really look at it that way, but, just looking at things that maybe, were approved when they brought them in, but now it's been 20 years and it's not been upkept, and now it's not really.
That one never got approved.
Yeah,
Well, it's-
yeah, well, yeah, I don't think that one ever did either. I'm like,
It's
well,
something
how'd that
we-
even happen?
But in that one brings a topic, it's something, this board is trying to be very open with everything with everybody. There's some stuff that like, someone will tell us, oh, I had that approved, and we can't find a record of it, but they can't show a record of it. So we're stuck in a hard place on some of those, because if it gets to a point of one, if it's bad enough that it was approved, but if it's degraded, we have a stance to say, you gotta keep it up, Kev, we can tell you you need to remove it. But if that's where we are at a point, we don't know what to do on some that where they go, hey, I had approval, and if they have record of that, as long as it's not worse off than what it was put in, then what do we do?
Make sure their lot's clean, I guess.
Right, but you can't, well, like, if it's been approved and it was the same then it is now, we're
I
like,
mean, if it was approved, even if it was wrongly approved, it was still approved, and so they've got a leg to stand on.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a
As
lot
long
harder.
as they keep it up.
Well, see, that's where, and I've said it, I'm in the second term, I guess, as a board member, and I said it in the first one, and I'll say it in this one. It's us as members' responsibility to hold your board accountable. Don't let them get away with that stuff. If if you got somebody next door to you that brings a shed in and turns it into a home, and it's not 600 square feet, and they say, well, the board approved it, call the board out on it. It's against the rules. We can't make.
Yeah, we've got,
name would never do anything.
we've
Yeah,
got one
we-
up the road from us that they're right up under the power line,
Up next to the roof.
up next to the road,
And it was
and
never approved.
we come down that hill quicker than they think that we should, and they'll come out there and start screaming at you that they got a little 3-year-old that lives there. And I'm like, well then, move your house back off the road and don't let your 3-year-old play in it.
And I mean, yeah, that's one that, but definitely hold the board accountable, because it's you guys' job. We can't make rules. We can't change rules. We have to abide by what's in the bylaws and the restrictions, and that's our duty to do. And if we go beyond that, it's your job or our job as members to call it out. I mean, don't let that stuff go by. This is your neighborhood too.
Yeah, if
So-
somebody brings me something and says, hey, this lot, or this person with this name, I can look it up and see if it was approved or not, but I can't go through every lot in this thing and check them out with my computer.
Yeah,
Like, I gotta work a full-time job too, so, but if somebody's got a problem, I'm all for checking
Yeah,
it out.
we don't want to call them out openly in a meeting, but if you know somebody that's doing it, or a lot number, a name, anything, and you get with one of us, we can,
Yeah,
we can
that's
work
me.
it, and
My
we
phone
will
number's
work
on
it.
My phone number's on the website, and that's my deal, so.
The structure fire can we give him any kind of timeline to get that cleaned up?
That's what I was thinking too, is we need to do that because it's still a danger the way it is. And then also, it's been an issue besides the fire.
We got that one on the other side of the harbor. Here too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Not over there on
there's
Elkhorn.
Both of those, and then they're relation to the other one too, so. I would be upset with just giving them, I don't know, what do you guys think would be a fair timeline to get that cleaned up?
Well, if
Here's
they-
my suggestion, I'd just like to start the tone, sorry, I didn't mean to. Something along the lines of after insurance payment, like if there's no progress within 60 days.
I don't think
Do
they
they
have
even have
insurance.
Yeah, I would think
seriously
that,
doubt it.
yeah, if you wanted to go with the insurance thing, I'd wanna see some verification of that.
Well,
But maybe either way, the 60 days to get it cleaned up so they
I
can
would
start.
say-
paying.
Well,
Just
I
be
mean,
polite.
that can just be,
I think a 90-day.
and or if
A
there
six-
isn't.
Fine.
a 60 to 90
Yeah,
days, just to be polite.
6 months, just as long as it does get cleaned up.
I'm
Show
not
some
saying, I'm
progress.
not saying to be
Yeah.
fixed, just to see progress,
Yeah.
see progress started. And again, that, if they don't have insurance, that's just a,
Well,
if they, just the wording.
this may be a stupid thing too, but maybe if they wanna keep, and I'm not even referring to that property, but other properties, let's say they wanna keep all their junk, then maybe they can be offered to build like an 8-foot tall fence.
Yep.
So nobody has to see it.
And like a 2-month timeline to
Like,
get
get
it
it
up.
out of the front yard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I'm
A
not
solid
opposed to
fence
that,
that people
but I
don't-
think
can't
there'll
see
still be the
through.
Yeah,
underlying
yeah.
problem
Metal
of
fence,
danger.
yeah.
That's
You
probably
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
It's still a fire hazard, and you still run into if it's in a dry spell, which we're prone to.
Well,
A fire hazard, a fence just doubles a fire hazard if it's already there, which means you're doubling the spread. So I personally do not like the fence option. Just my personal opinion. If that's what people decide, I'm okay with it. But I don't like it because if we're talking about a fire hazard scenario, all you're doing is add an actual field of fire, because it's gonna have to be a wood fence to cover it. So you're just actually adding fuel to a fire to spread more.
You can use corrugated in that fences though too, but either way, yeah, I understand. It's more expensive option than one that you want to do that. You probably in your yard.
but one thing we have to consider too is this property that was up here on Forest Road, they had built that privacy fence around it so that people wouldn't be complaining about the car work that they were doing on their property. And everybody bitched about that fence,
We haven't had the
so,
bus in the road.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know,
Well, the fence didn't stay standing more than 3 weeks.
no, that fence was there for a while, and
I want to see
everybody
how that
bitched
bus
about the fence, so I mean, I don't think giving them the offer of a fence would help.
Yeah, it'd have to be a real, it'd have, like, if you're, I think what she's talking about, it'd have to be like an 8-foot fence, it'd be like, you can't see it, you know?
Well, and that's what they
At least on
had.
Indian Road, you know? But either way, was there?
No.
Becky, you got something?
I was just gonna say earlier, you guys had talked in your board meeting, you were discussing the Doc Easy program. It is on the old computer that was originally out there with Jodelle, that when she was on there. It's hard to get it to pull up, but when you do get it pull up, the computer will also crash, that you have to like go into the, you'd have to ask Randy and or Buck, because they're the ones who had to like keep going in and open it and doing whatever they do to bring it back up. But there is nothing in there, I'm just letting you know so you don't have to go through all that. There is nothing in there except for accounting. There is nothing for saying approvals for any architecturals or anything to that effect. So whatever's gonna be in the files or whatever's gonna be in that folio, that's what you're gonna have.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
perfect.
appreciate that.
Were all of the paper files ever uploaded to Appfolio?
No.
No.
We had it discussed, but, I mean, as you remember, those files that were gonna be taken and have them shredded and all that good stuff, as far as I know,
They're still
anyway, they're still out there,
They're still there.
so, no.
And that's, I'm gonna get off topic, but I had some grandiose ideas about the roads and stuff, and I was up here the last time we was in that office and got to reading on some of the back roads, and there've been other board members already done it, got quotes on having roads paved, they got them on having them blacktop, and not too long ago, so, you know, that saves a lot of time just going there, and, they wanted $180,000 but we use it for research too, and, somebody's already done it, I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel, and unless we've got an awful good deal like we've got on stuff up here, metal and rock and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I got prices on paving and chip seal, and the money's not there. I mean, that's a lot of money to chip seal. I think he told me it was, $38,000 or $40,000 to do. I got a place over on West Canyon Rock Road, just from Forest to Cherokee. It was like $40,000 for chip seal.
You went through a lot of effort to
I
get
went-
those
yeah.
quotes.
I mean, it was, and it was even gave us a discount because he knew he was gonna get more work out here if he lowered the price a little bit. I mean, I tried everything and it's expensive. And what's bad now is I haul the oil that they use for chip seal. 8,000 gallons at a time.
Like if only,
Yeah.
drop by the house.
All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Shooting off to the side here, what's your plan on making these people clean up their yards? What's your point of action? Because we can't even get the money that's owed to us, the back taxes and stuff like that. So how are you gonna force somebody to clean up their yard?
We've been doing that with, and on the properties that we've, gone after, where they've paid us back dues, what we do is we file small claims with them, and then, that's assuming it's under $10,000. If it's over that, then you gotta get an attorney involved, and it costs a lot more. But if it's below that, you can file with them, and then if we get a judgment, then we can garnish their wages. And with the threat of that, every single person that we've said, hey, we're gonna do this with, has been like, yeah, let's go ahead and settle out of court, and they paid us right away. So we've been getting money that way. The only thing that I came up with a couple times is, if I go to file too fast and we got the wrong person's name, like if the person's dead and it needs to be somebody else, that's a problem, you know. And so just making sure we dot all our i's and cross our t's with that. That's gonna work. Now, as far as these ones of trash, stuff like that, that's gonna have to be something where we're gonna have to give them a notice to get it cleaned up within like 60 days, and if they don't, then we clean it up. What it says in the bylaws is we clean it up and then send them the bill. Like
Well, there's a guy right around the corner from us down there in South Cove
that's
you
one of
know,
the ones.
and he just pays his fines. He said it's cheaper for him to pay a fine than it is to clean it up, is what I heard.
So what we end up on some of this stuff, and it's like what we've talked about it a little bit on some of us, you know, if we can't get a hold of them, what do we do? Because then if we do go clean it up, and then so now we've incurred that cost as the POA, we can charge it to them. What ends up being happening is, to cover our things, if we get one that we look at and go, if we're gonna go to one and go, you know what, this has to be done now. And there's some, we've already actually talked with them, they started cleaning stuff up, and we've seen some progress, so we're giving them chances. But if we get to ones that we can't get a hold of, we send a certified letter, whether it gets accepted or not, we've sent certified letter, we have a record of it, and we only need 15 days on a fine. We send a warning, 15 days, we can give a fine. After the fine, we can immediately do the work. And that's when it falls into some of these, Mike was able to do that when we get into the collections, which we've had success so far. As I showed, you know, we collected $27,000 this past year in back owed money. A part of that he was also finding was once you start incurring that money and he can file small claims, we found some of the old boards they were having people served, but they were paying the basic companies, which is generally fine. Mike found you can start paying the sheriff directly to serve people, and then it's guaranteed, and that's actually where a lot of successes came for us, at least as this board, is that having the sheriffs do it, they then, if they can't find them, they actually do the research and come back to them and tell them, hey, actually, I found out he doesn't live there anymore, he lives here. And then we've actually got a hold of them, because the sheriff's not like a regular serve company. When a regular serve company comes in, they knock, you don't answer, they go away. Or you go, oh, that person doesn't live here. They go, sheriff actually makes sure.
They actually do an NCIC check on it.
I mean, again, the main part of the question was, how are you gonna make them do something that they've done for 30 years?
Right.
You're not gonna be able to take his land from them, are you?
I think, no, so what you would do is, so if we pay to have it cleaned up, if we pay to have that cleaned up, and then we send that bill to him, and he doesn't pay it,
Yes.
then it's the same thing as like those other ones that are with the delinquent dues. Now we can file that in small claims court
A lien
and
on the
start
property.
garnishing, no, the lien's already there, but that will file for garnishment of wages at that point, and then at that point, then we're getting money regardless of whether they like it or not.
But
They
if
got
they're on
it,
social security, you're not gonna be able to garnish it.
you can't get any, I don't know on
You
that.
can't
No,
garnish
if you're,
social.
yeah, if you're on disability.
But
or whatnot.
what you fall
But
into.
you get to clean that property.
Well, and you still fall into those if it's the same process. If you start charging them a fine and it's continual, you know, hey, the first fine's $100. A month later, nothing's been done, $300. Nothing's been done, $600. You can keep progressing it more and more, and then you go, now you owe this much money. You can file the collections. If you can't get the collections, then it gets to a certain point, you can file actually the foreclosure.
Foreclosure, yeah. We just been going with the garnishment first because that's the easiest, and usually people are like, I don't want my check getting messed with. But you can next go to foreclosure, but that's where you gotta get an attorney involved too, you know? So that's gonna be spending more money, and is it worth it? So certain ones would be worth it, certain ones it
Yeah,
wouldn't.
the other thing we've got to be careful with is I know in the past, Randy's served a notice, a stop work order notice on a property because they didn't have architectural control approval. They called the sheriff. The sheriff basically told him, you can be charged for trespassing for going on that man's property and posting that notice. So we need to get them on our side. And I think maybe if we go about it a different way and say, hey, look, this is our issue, will you help us out on it? They'd be willing to help us out.
I did talk to somebody in the county assessor's office when they were out here and asked him kind of about that. And I was like, question, our restrictions are actually equivalent to zoning rules if you lived in the city limits, which is, I'm like, if you're in the city limits, you don't mow your grass. I'm like, my property's private, right? And they go, yeah. So I'm like, so if the city sends someone out there, I can charge you trespassing to you for coming to mow my lawn? They go, well, no, because the zoning says this. I'm like, well, so if our zoning says this, then,
Might have had a deputy that didn't know.
correct.
But
And
like I said, if you head it off in the beginning and get all that ironed out before you go put the notice or before you go on the property to clean it.
And that's what
Or
that's what we'd
we'd
have
be
to do
better off.
if we get to the point of actually physically going to clean a property. And that can be whether we just find a company to pay or we can get a group of people that are willing to volunteer so it doesn't actually cost us money, but a group can come together and haul stuff off. Then you can turn around and go, okay, now we just have to make sure a sheriff or a deputy's out here to say, nope, by the rules, the zoning rules, which what our restrictions are, we can do this because here's all the notices showing proof. Okay, now the sheriff or deputy can at least say, nope, it's not trespassing, it's not this, you're good.
Hey, Brandon, Mike, just a thought, or anybody, am I interrupting or jumping? Sorry. That path you laid out on ending up in foreclosure,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be the worst possible.
can we post that path on like the main website or something?
We could create a little cutesy document that shows.
Something to where it's plainly understandable. That way, there's that knowledge.
Before
If
it
you've
gets
got a
that far.
neighbor you've got an issue with, you now have the knowledge to go, hey, neighbor, how you doing, buddy? I don't know if you know this, but here's a if the neighborhood deems you're a problem, here's a. It's a kind of a.
That's in the restrictions.
I know, but.
You can't, I mean, I've been like, you know, a union member for 17 years, in leadership in the union, and I don't know how many people want to fight for things in their contract but don't read the contract. Everybody needs to be knowledgeable of, and if they just choose not to read it, they're not going to know. So putting it out there like that might be a better idea because.
Yeah, it's something we can make a
Just
little.
on the main website.
Yeah, we can just make a little document. That's not.
Something new, it
Some-
pops out there.
Yeah, it's something we can put in, just list it. That's not a big deal. At least it gives.
And that'll outlive us as well.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, no matter what we say, it's just like when I went back to earlier on the dues and, you know, how are we going to collect back dues owed? This is the same topic scenario of this board can go in and work our ass off and do everything to make everything so much better. But if the next group decides they don't want to, or they come in and go, you know what, these people were mean because they make people follow the rules, so they now do the opposite, then you're back. It's always a scenario that falls like what William said, that falls to the members making sure they do it. Because if you see a board did something actually right, make sure the next boards do it too.
So, question.
No.
I'm kidding.
On Outfolio, is there, so anytime you use any kind of website to pay any bill, you gotta click that you have read the terms and accept the terms and services, right? Is there a way that on Outfolio, when we go to pay our dues, that they can list it as like a terms of services, go through and have the bylaws on there and have them click that I have read and understood these bylaws
You don't have to
in
do
order
that.
to pay your Outfolio?
I would have to add, so we would have to check that folio to see if that's something to add. I don't know if it is on that part. But in general, once again, our bylaws are filed with the county as zoning rules.
Right, but that just gives you, every year, you've got documentation, look, they've said that they've read and agreed to live by these bylaws.
It sounds like a nice thing to check out, I can look at it, but for sure, it's on their deed, like on your deed, it says that you, like I know on mine anyways, if the deeds was written
You
up
have to
properly,
agree to-
it says that you have to follow, that you're binding by the
Zoning,
bylaw.
zoning and restrictions of that specific county.
Why would you guys have to go through all that? Because common sense tells you ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Common
You go to
sense isn't
court,
common.
And if you go to court for speeding, I didn't know that, Mark, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yeah, there's bylaws here.
Oh, and honestly,
If you don't read them, that's not my problem.
We got
Yeah,
a lot of people,
to-
not to
You
go
know?
against you, but there's a lot of people that quit claim deed and they don't even know about the bylaws. And then that's why I think
That's
people.
not our fault.
Well,
Yeah,
I know
no,
it's not
it's-
your fault, but that's what happens.
Or
It's
yours.
realistic.
I mean,
yeah, no,
everybody's fault.
I get what you're getting at
I don't
completely.
wanna educate them. If they're too lazy to
Yeah.
educate themselves, then
Yeah.
let
And-
shit happen.
And that's where, that's kind of one of those lines where you go, absolutely agree that, like I said, when it comes down to it, we go to court every time we have, not a single time has a judge been like, no, we're not approving you. Every time judge goes, yeah, that's the bylaws, a judge doesn't go, well, did they get to sign them? Did they agree to them? He goes, no, that's what's filed with the county, cool, done. So yes, you're right, the ignorance isn't an excuse, and I agree, sometimes I agree way too strongly with that. But at the end of the day, like both of Casey's and hers, if we can figure out a way to do them, like making a document's like an hour work for me to throw that on the website. Now the checking a box, I don't know if that, if it's one of those like that feels like, well, you're gonna have to pay extra for it. No, I'm not paying extra for it. But if it's something we can do free, it helps. But I agree, it's not something that gives anyone an excuse.
People just check those off on any website, they don't read them. And I want to second what he said. You know, if you buy any property anywhere in America, and then you get your tax bill from the county and you go, well, nobody told me I had to pay taxes, is that gonna fly with the county?
Right.
You don't need to be, your own property, you need to be an adult, so I agree with you.
Oh, most,
If you buy your property
Yeah.
legally, it's bound to your title when you close at the county assessor's office.
Right, exactly.
Do the title.
Totally.
And you don't sign it, but it's bound to
Yeah.
into your title.
Yeah, you sign a deed, yeah,
You
and that
sign
first
that
says,
you agree that you know you're in a POA and that there's rules and regs that you need to be aware of.
sure,
If you buy it in normal way.
totally agree.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? All right, y'all have a good evening. Thanks for coming. Tell your neighbors to come to the next one. We need a quorum so we can do business.
Yeah, definitely tell everybody to come next time.